Joe Biden recently had an interview and indicated potential support for reforming, if not getting rid of the filibuster. Let's take a look.
Here's the choice. I don't think you have to eliminate the filibuster. You have to do it what it used to be when I first got to the Senate and back in the old days when you used to be around there. And that is that a filibuster, you had to stand up and command the floor. And you had to keep talking alone. You couldn't call for, no one could say, quorum call. Once you stopped talking, you lost that, and someone could move in and say, I move the question of. So you got to work for the filibuster.
So you're for that reform. You're for bringing back the talking filibuster.
I am. That's what it was supposed to be. Look, I think, don't hold me to the numbers, George, but I think between 1960 and 2000, there were like, I'm making this number up, I don't know. There were like, 50 filibusters. And now they're like 200 since then. Since that
just put a hold
stands.
on it, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, so the idea, it almost is getting to the point where there's, democracy's having a hard time functioning. A hard time functioning.
That's an understatement. But anyway, some good numbers there, and he's totally right. Again, he's just sort of making up the numbers, but we know that it's true. The filibuster was never used in the sort of just expected, casual, let's not even discuss it sort of way that it became under the Obama administration. So that would potentially be significant. What do you think about that, Francesca?
Yeah, I mean, I think the more you learn about the filibuster, the more you're like, nope, abolish, just like ICE, you're like, abolish. But of course, this is Joe Biden we're talking about. And so, I think as I learn more about the filibuster itself, you're like, oh yeah, just like a lot of things that have been abused in this country, this has been bastardized. This has been completely taken out of the original context when it was enacted, and it could be walked back. So yes, there is room for reform. You can put the onus on the minority instead of the onus on the majority, which doesn't make any sense as it stands now.
It doesn't.
And and so without getting into all the different little ways on how it can be reformed, because I'll leave that to smarter people than me, I think that those steps are good, and especially if someone like Joe Manchin is on board for it, well, we've got to bow down to Manchin because he's got us all by the, No, but I think that's good. It's good. It's a step in the right direction for sure.
Yeah, and let's quickly just buttress Biden's point there with some actual numbers. So according to Ezra Klein in the New York Times, from 1917 to 1970, the Senate took 49 votes to break filibusters. 49, those are cloture votes. That is fewer than one each year. Since 2010, it's been taken on average more than 80 votes each year to end filibusters, more than 80. And there'd probably be more if our representatives sort of worked hard to correct problems. They try to pass so little legislation that honestly, there aren't nearly as many opportunities to filibuster as there should be in a functioning democracy. But that is there. And the sort of reform that Biden is talking about there is one that Manchin has recently indicated he might be in support of. I'm sure he will go back on that soon. But one thing I would like on people like him and Sinema and others, I'm sure there are others that don't want to get rid of the filibuster. They just haven't been identified in the same clear way that those two have. They keep getting asked, will you reform it? Or maybe it'll be tied to like the Biden agenda, but in a very vague way. Like, would you support the filibuster if it means that Biden doesn't get what he's working for? I really want to see it tied directly to individual bills. Like, you will not be able to raise the minimum wage, even to the $11 that Manchin's in favor of, if you keep the filibuster. You're choosing the filibuster over the minimum wage. Why is that? Okay, you're not going to be able to pass HR 1 with the filibuster. You're choosing the filibuster over HR 1. Why are you doing that? Violence Against Women Act, any number of other pieces of legislation. As long as we make it vague and philosophical and just about the norms and all of that, they get to hide in the same way that Republicans hide against voting against this legislation by using the filibuster. Let's make it specific. In the same way that the filibuster in use is supposed to draw attention to that opposition, let's put some attention on Manchin and Sinema's opposition to reforming the filibuster. If they really value it over this legislation, and they believe that that is the moral position to hold, it is a justifiable position to hold, then make them hold it in interviews. Now that probably will just result in them doing less interviews. But if one of these journalists gets it, stop making it vague. Ask them about specific things that are on the line if they maintain their opposition to reform. That would be my advice.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And because, especially because we don't know who they're like, why? What are you doing this for? Why are you upholding this at all? And it's a complete miscalculation and a misread of the Republican Party that's been using the filibuster in bad faith to block anything, any kind of progress, any legislation, and then say, look, see, government doesn't work for you. Oh well, better gut it and sell it for parts. Yay, yay, yay! Make my friends rich. Make my friends rich. You know, like that's the goal. We've seen it. It happened in 2016 when Trump was elected. So like, you know, and this is the thing, like I'm all for reforming, but if, you know, Biden says over and over again, you can't question people's, what is it? What he's like, you can question their actions, but never their motives. And it's like, I'm pretty sure we can question Republicans' motives when it comes to the filibuster. They are completely bad faith about it.
Yeah, well, then look, I'm gonna, just because you've opened up the door. While he did say that he's in favor of the reform, he also said, I think the epiphany is going to come between now and 2022. With that epiphany being the Republicans will suddenly wake up from the Trump fever dream that they've had, and they'll become reasonable, and they'll decide that democracy still counts for something, and they should, you know, give a damn about their constituents, or even the people who aren't their constituents in theory. Because he was asked about that by, I believe it was Stephanopoulos, who said, you know, you said this was gonna happen, it hasn't happened. And Biden, rather than using that as an opportunity to say, you know what, I was trying to unify the country, but we do have to take stock of the state of the Republican Party and, you know, identify what they are. But he didn't say that. He said, oh, it'll happen later. It'll happen by 2022. And as I said on the damage report, because the midterm elections being right around the corner is gonna lead to more bipartisanship with the Republicans. That's usually how it works in America. But he said it. He said it was straight-faced, he said it in an interview. So we have to assume that that's what he really still thinks will happen.
Bless his, you know, little naive centrist heart. You know, it's just, I so want the world and the political world to be as Biden thinks it is somehow.
Yeah. Like,
ooh, you know, remember when Republicans didn't touch the third rail of racism, or they did, but it was just thinly veiled, you know, and they were like, you know, mask off. Now it's mask off. Before it was mask on. You know, that kind of thing. And he just, which is funny because his whole impetus for running was when Trump basically equated Nazis with being good people, and it's like, do you not get it, or are you just not saying that you don't get it? Like, we are in a vastly different time. I mean, it was all bets off after January 6th, you know, all bets off about whether this party is playing fairly or cares at all, or whether there's gonna be no epiphany if they start another party. Look, if they create another party, maybe Liz Cheney at the helm, Romney up in there.
That'll do.
I wouldn't hold your breath though. So, you know, but I do think, yes, yay on the reform, once again, should be abolished. But if he can get this done, let's do it. Absolutely, let's do it and make it harder to block this legislation.
I agree.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.